What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. We're back today with the Smith Wesson SW40VE. If you remember from our previous video, we noted that the trigger on this particular firearm needs to be replaced. We also disassembled and cleaned the slide. So today we're going to do the second half of that video, which we're going to address the replacement of the trigger and some rusting issues, as well as anything else that we may find. But as always, remember that safety is top tier importance. So before we begin, we want to ensure that our firearm is unloaded, magazines removed, chamber is clear, and you always want to be sure to work in a controlled environment, preferably on a stable surface like a table or a workbench. So we're going to take the slide and we're going to set it aside, as we are not working with the slide today. So here are the tools and parts that you're going to need for this job. Of course, replacement trigger kit. And anytime that you're ordering replacement parts for your firearm, please ensure that they're compatible with your particular make and model of firearm. If you don't know, make sure you consult your owner's manual. You're going to need the punch set. Specifically in this case, we're going to be using a 1/8 punch. Gunsmithing mat is optional. If you remember from the previous cleaning video, I had a sheet of cardboard. Tweezers are optional if you need them. A small container to make sure that you keep track of your parts, also optional if you need them. A mallet. My punch set came with a dual-sided mallet. One side is rubber and the other side is brass. You need a bench block to help protect your firearm. Again, that's optional. If you don't have one, you can still perform this work, but it does help. And since we're going to be addressing issues of rust in this particular case, a brass wire brush. Also, safety first, safety glasses, and another optional, I like to use gloves, especially when I'm working with different chemicals. So let's get started. First, I'm going to make some room on my mat. Taking these pieces of the trigger kit and putting them in a small bag so I don't lose any of them. Set aside the brush and the punch. You want to make sure that you refer to your owner's manual for specific instructions on field stripping your firearm. Since we've already moved the slide and we're not working with that, we're just going to get right into it. So we're going to place the frame onto the bench block. I'm going to grab our punch and our mallet, and we're going to firmly yet gently tap the pin that's retaining the trigger out. Should come right out. We're going to set that aside. So we're going to remove our punch. And that should release the locking block. Now the locking block, it should come up slightly, but if you can't get a grip on it to pull it straight out, you can grab one of your punches and give it a light prying and you should be able to take it right on out. Oh yeah. As you can see, there is some rusting on this block. So we're gonna clean that up. Set this off to the side for now. Okay. Next, we're going to remove slide release. Not so bad, but there is some rusting here. And now we should be able to remove the trigger assembly. So we're going to lift up on the trigger, and we're going to gently pull it out. And here is our old broken trigger and bar. Set this aside. So inspecting the inside, it's not horrible in there. I mean, firearm's not brand new, so you know, expected some grit and some wear and tear on it. Now I would disassemble it further by taking out the parts in this section, but I'm not the most confident about that, so I'm just going to leave these alone. If need be, I'll get them over to my gunsmith. I think I'm going to hit this with a little cleaner, spray it out and see if there's any crud in there that needs to come out. I'm going to go and do that off camera, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back, and while I was spraying out the inside of the frame, I noticed that on the slide lock there's also some rusting, so I'm going to remove that as well, and we're going to get to the subject of addressing surface rust. Removing the slide lock is fairly easy. There's a spring on the inside. You're going to depress that spring. Might need to use actual metal punch to do it. And there you have it. Okay, so a good bit of the rust I was able to just wipe away. But in situations where you have rusting on your parts, and to my knowledge, this method is only good for surface rust. If you have anything deeper, any pitting, this will not do anything for that. So you're going to get your brass wire brush, and brass because it's rigid enough to clean the rust away, but it's soft enough not to do damage to your firearm parts. And you also want to do this dry. What rust is iron oxide, and those particles are highly abrasive. If you do it wet, the particles may get trapped in the oils, and you may actually end up doing damage to your firearm and its parts. Now, on some of your firearm parts that have bluing on them, you may notice that a yellow haze appears as you brush. It's nothing really to worry about. It's just particles from the brass coming off onto the finish. It should wipe right off. Seemed like a storm has rolled up on me. Sorry about that, folks. It seems like a storm crept up on me outside, but I believe we left off with removing the slide lock. One thing that you definitely want to pay attention to is this piece right here. This is the spring that holds the slide lock in place, and it's easy for it to slip out once the slide lock has been removed, but it easily goes back into place. It's gonna go in this configuration with this end pointing down into the frame. Not sure if you can see it, but there's a little recess right in there where that end goes into. This is the part where those tweezers will come in handy. And there we go. Hope you can see it back in its proper place. Okay, so once you have thoroughly cleaned everything of the rust, you're gonna get a patch, silicone cloth, whatever you have, and you're gonna want to saturate that with some oil. Again, I'm using the Slip 2000 EWL 30. Doesn't have to be a whole lot of oil, because what you want to do is just give your parts a light coating of oil to protect against future rust. Will it protect it completely? Absolutely not, but it will help guard it against rust. Okay, now that we've cleaned the frame and removed the rust from the parts, it's time to put it all back together. So I'm going to start with trigger lock. Insert it from the side just like we removed it. And there's a little groove on one side. You want to make sure that that groove is facing you with the frame of the firearm pointing forward. Grab our handy dandy punch one more time. Depress the spring. And then we slide the trigger lock back into place. Function check. All right, looks good. Okay, so now we want to grab our new trigger. If I can get it out of the bag. I'm going to attach the trigger spring. You're going to notice that on the trigger spring, one of the holes is slightly larger than the other, or one of the loops is slightly larger than the other. Also, one of the loops has a bit of an open end while the other is closed. The larger loop is so that your retention pin can pass through. The other end attaches to your trigger, and it's actually too small for the retention pin to pass through. Here on the trigger is where the open end of your trigger spring is going to attach to. It goes like so. And I just took it back off. It goes together like so. Trigger pin will pass through one side of your trigger, through the spring, and through the other side. Like so. So we're going to take the trigger, we're going to place it into the slide exactly in the spot where we took out the old trigger. Now we're going to take the slide release and we're going to slide it in over here on the side. And then we're going to take the locking block and we're going to place it back in place. Just like that. Now this next part, and all the times that I've been doing this, it has always given me a slight issue, making sure that the spring is lined up with the holes so that everything can go back together like it's supposed to. So I'm gonna have to get another pin, not a pin, but another punch, and line everything up. Okay, so I also took the liberty of going to grab my headlight because the lighting in here is not the best and it's becoming a little difficult to see. Alright, so we're going to take our punch, push it through one side. Okay, got the punch, the block, and trigger. And I'll take another punch and I'll grab it. Okay. Then we get our retention pin, push it in. And then we give it a tap. Function check to make sure everything is as it should be. Alrighty. Feels good. Now we're going to get our slide and complete the reassembly. Function check. Again, make sure before you consider the work complete, you function check, rack your slide a few times, press your trigger, make sure that everything is properly aligned. If you run into any issues, don't be afraid or ashamed to backtrack, double check your work. Even though I have everything reassembled and the function check does check out, I'm still going to take this firearm out on the range and do some live fire testing just to make sure that everything is back in order as it should be. The hell? Well, gun works. I just can't shoot. And there you have it. If you're following along, by now you have successfully replaced the trigger in your Smith Wesson SW40VE. Remember that this process takes extreme attention to detail. You have to make sure that you are practicing the utmost in safety. So if you're not comfortable performing any portion of this task by yourself, it's always good to make sure you seek the assistance and guidance of a professional gunsmith. Just like I said with the section in the rear. Not most comfortable tearing that part apart, so I'm not going to touch it. If I feel the need to go in there, I'll make sure I take it to my gunsmith and have him tear it down, and then we'll get everything put back together and function checked again. Again, thank you for tuning in. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment so I know what you think, share the video with a friend. Also, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any more content. If you have any questions or any advice, leave it in the comment section below. So until next time, stay safe, stay responsible, keep shooting. Thanks for watching.